Coffee farming is a major source of income for farmers and a source of revenue to the government. It is for this reason that the coffee sector constantly attracts the eye of the national planners. Coffee diseases pose a great challenge to the development of the sector. The major diseases are coffee berry disease (CBD), coffee leaf rust (CLR), and bacterial blight of coffee (BBC). While the minor diseases include Fusarium root and bark diseases, brown eye spot, and Botrytis wart disease. For coffee berry disease, the major symptoms during the early stages of berry development include dark brown blotches on flowers, small dark sunken patches on green berries, and dark brown coloration on the maturing bark of branches. The berries often drop down or remain on the tree in a dark, shriveled condition.
CBD is one of the major diseases in coffee, and it will be found in most coffee growing areas. And what CBD does, it attacks berries when they are developing, and especially when they are in the 4th to 16th week.
The disease also attacks ripening berries, causing brown lesions with small black dots, a condition known as brown blight. The disease thrives in conditions with high humidity, prolonged wetness, and cool temperatures. Proper management of CBD is essential for the realization of a healthy coffee crop. This includes timely pruning, handling, desuckering, regular change of cycle, and adherence to the recommended spray programs with the right fungicides. For effective CBD control, spraying must begin before the onset of the long rains until the rains and the cold season ends.
Control of CBD is by the use of fungicides, and they must be tested and recommended by the Coffee Research Foundation. You must start spraying before the rains, and in most cases in mid-February. You spray through the rainy season until the rains are off around July.
In addition, the planting of disease-resistant varieties like Ruiru 11 and Batian cultivars is another effective measure, as is the conversion of other susceptible varieties to these disease-resistant varieties through top working, a procedure we shall explain later in this training. The other major coffee disease is the coffee leaf rust (CLR). The symptoms to look out for include yellow to orange powdery blotches which appear on the underside. The whole leaf may become infected. Defoliation may occur in case of severe infection causing dieback. The disease is spread in the form of spores from lesions on the underside of leaves by wind and rain. Spore germination is triggered by the water and favorable temperatures. The management of CLR resembles that of CBD. It includes proper pruning, conversion of susceptible varieties to resistant varieties, and adherence to the recommended spray programs with the right fungicides. The sprays should start before the onset of the long rains and should target the underside of leaves. 3 sprays are recommended during the long rains and 2 more during the short rains period. The other major coffee disease is bacterial blight of coffee, BBC. BBC is confined to some coffee growing areas such as Solai in Nakuru, around Mount Elgon and Kisii, but a few cases have been reported from other areas.
Bacterial blight of coffee but is confined only to a few areas. Namely, it was first discovered in Mount Elgon. It is there in Kisii. It is also now there in Nakuru.
Symptoms include black lesions with water-soaked margins which appear on the leaves at the onset of the infection. Dead and dried leaves do not shed but remain attached to the plant. On twigs, the terminal buds are attacked with the infection extending downwards. When the disease progresses, the entire tree or pinheads may be attacked and appear black and water-soaked. Flowers and pinheads shrivel and turn black, leading to an entire crop loss. Cool wet weather is the main trigger factor of BBC. One of the key management aspects of BBC is to avoid planting materials from known prevalent areas. Other interventions include the cutting off of infected twigs and branches and the planting of shade trees and windbreaks. Adherence to recommended spray programs is also key to the management of BBC. Critical spray time is just before, during, and after flowering, especially when these coincide with wet weather. Remember to disinfect pruning tools after use on infected trees. Before spraying, ensure the spray equipment is in good working condition. Check the chemical to be used and identify the product's trade name and its authenticity. Check on the active ingredients indicated and verify whether it has the Pesticides Control Products Board registration number. That done, the instructions thereof should strictly be adhered to. Remember to dispose the containers after use, preferably through burying. To reduce disease incidences, it is important to prune all the trees soon after the harvest season and to remove old stems and trim long primary branches. It is important to note that mixing foliar feeds with copper fungicides reduces the efficacy of copper sprays against coffee diseases. Further, Daconil 75% and Delant 75%, when applied in areas where bacterial blight is endemic, increase the incidence and severity of the disease. The other disease that attacks coffee is the Fusarium bark disease. It manifests itself in three distinct forms. These are Stories bark, characterized by an attack of suckers at the base with lesions that girdle the stem, forming a bottleneck. This causes the leaves to wilt and turn brown, but remain attached to the branches. The other form is the Collar rot, where cankerous lesions develop around the stem base at the soil level, causing a constriction or flattening of the stem near the ground level. This causes the yellowing and wilting of the tree, followed by eventual death. The scaly bark symptom is the rising up and flaking of bark on mature stems, which can be readily rubbed off.
If coffee is neglected by the farmers, then what happens is Phacelia root disease or bark disease will develop. And what happens with the Phacelia root or bark disease is that it affects the whole tree and eventually drying up.
Fusarium bark disease can be managed through elimination of wood-boring insect pests such as yellow-headed borer, regular soil sampling to avoid soil acidity, painting pruning scars using a broad-based fungicide such as copper-based fungicides, avoiding deep planting and uprooting and burning diseased trees. On the other hand, Fusarium root disease causes sudden wilting of leaves followed by death of the whole tree. A cross-section of the stem near the soil level shows a purplish coloration where the fungus had invaded the woody tissue. It can be managed by uprooting and burning dying or wilted trees and ensuring all roots are removed. Further, the excavated site and the holes should be left open for not less than 3 months before planting. Alternatively, the soil dug from a 3-foot by 3-foot hole should be sterilized with 150 grams of soil fumigant called Basamid and mixed with soil before filling the hole.
What I can tell farmers on Phacelia is to try and note the disease quite early, because once you find it early, you discover it's there early, then the best thing farmer would do, because Phacelia has no cure, the best thing is to uproot and burn that plant, so such that the Phacelia does not spread to the other plants.
Now, are you familiar with the top working process? Top working is a cheaper method of converting mature old trees of traditional Arabica coffee into the disease-resistant varieties such as Riro 11 and Batian through grafting without uprooting and replanting.
Top working is a technique of converting mature coffee susceptible varieties to disease-resistant varieties by way of fusing the cambium layers of both scions and rootstock. The susceptible varieties that we do convert are SA28, SA34 and K7. And the resistant varieties are Riro 11 and Batian variety, which is a new variety.
Grafting scions are derived from the mother tree seedlings, which have undergone a pre-selection for coffee berry disease CBD and coffee leaf rust CLR. The mother trees are established in the field as a clonal garden at a spacing of 1 meter by 1 meter. Cooperative societies willing to establish clonal gardens are advised to order for clonal seedlings from Coffee Research Foundation.
When a society is interested to have a clonal garden, we provide them with the seedlings. So when these seedlings have been bought from Coffee Research Foundation, the field is prepared on the farmers' farms at the spacing of 1 meter by 1 meter. And the trees are planted in those holes. And the holes are dug at 1 meter, 60 centimeters by 60 centimeters. And when the trees are 9 months old, they are bent at horizontal angle, and they will produce what we call the autotropic shoots. So these shoots are the ones we use for top working, and we harvest the shoots when they are 6 months old. One shoot of 6 months can give you about 3 to 4 scions, because the most succulent ones is not recommended, and the other one, which is so hard, is also not recommended.
Let's examine the top working procedure in detail. As a first step, induce sucker growth on the tree earmarked for conversion by side pruning in the months of September, October, January and February.
The procedure for top working: first you have to do the preparation for your field by side pruning the trees that you intend to top work. You side prune the trees so that you can encourage more shoots. Those are the suckers coming from the base of the tree. If the tree has 3 heads, 1 head has to be removed so that you remain with the other 2 heads, which will provide the shade. And then you raise the suckers, which will come from the base of the tree. So when the suckers have 6 nodes or are 6 months old, then they are grafted. You get the scions from a disease-resistant variety, which is either Riro 11 or Batian variety.
In 6 months, the suckers are pencil thick and suitable for grafting. During the next step, select 3 to 4 healthy suckers from as near the ground as possible, approximately 4 to 6 inches, and graft with single node scions of desirable variety bearing a pair of leaves.
You graft them at 4 inches from the base of the stump.
Tie the graft union with a polythene tape to keep the scion in place and the union dry.
During top working, ensure that the cambium layer of the scion and the rootstocks are into contact with one another.
Lower a milky polythene tube to enclose the grafted sucker and tie the lower open end tightly just below the grafted union. Carefully pour a little water into the polythene bag, maintaining its level below the grafted union. The water helps to maintain a high relative humidity for faster healing.
After 3 months, you can gradually remove the polythene bag.
In about 6 months, the graft union is completely healed and the polythene strap can be removed. The grafted suckers are allowed to grow until they start bearing and the old stem is removed. Infill to improve the plant population.
After 1 year, you can remove the remaining head which was providing the shade. And at that time now, you can prepare the field by digging the holes between the lines and along the lines so that you can do the infilling to increase the plant population by unit area. so that he can now have the spacing of 4.5 feet by 4.5 feet to utilize the spacing within the lines and between the rows. In slope areas, you can do the infilling along the rows so that you can have the spacing at 9 feet by 4.5 feet so that you don't interfere with the soil conservation measures that have been put in place.
Paint the graft union to ensure only suckers developing above it are correctly selected. Note that grafting during the rainy season produces the best result. Top working has various advantages. For instance, conversion does not interfere with the normal cropping patterns. Young grafted suckers start bearing in about 1.5 years while production continues on the old heads. Top working saves on the cost of uprooting old bushes and re-establishment. The well-established root system of old stumps prevents lodging, which may occur when young trees carry a heavy crop. Remember that the farmer who tends his coffee well gets good profit in return.